but then, yeah, we'll jump back into the kitchen. Sound good?
Heck yeah, dude. I like it, dude.
Sweet. Well, hey, folks, beautiful morning here in Michigan. A little bit of a different venue if you're tuning into the YouTube portion of this. I am on site. I'm mobile. I'm actually at a parking lot. My kids are at the gym doing their workout class, and I am out in the parking lot. Definitely not working out, but still sweating. It is getting warm. I didn't turn the AC on, and that's maybe my thing. I have less than a quarter tank on the truck, so I was like, I will save the fuel and I'll just sweat a little bit. But this morning, I'm joined with Jeremy Dinsmore of the Antler Up Podcast. Joined in, I think, this year. Jeremy, you joined Sportsman's Empire. Are you enjoying it?
Yeah, man. So right now we just hit a full year last what would it have been, last fall. So we're coming up. It's been a full year, so I'm excited, and it's awesome to just obviously to work with Dan and the likes of you, Nick. It's an awesome networking thing, and obviously networking itself. It's just really cool where, like, for me, if I'm out in the garage or doing some work, I could literally just put on the Sportsman's Empire, hit play, and I just get a chance to catch up and just see what you all are doing. And it's really awesome to be a part of, no doubt.
Good deal. Yeah, it's a bunch of like-minded individuals. We're passionate about our hobbies. We're passionate about our lifestyle. But at the same time, we all have 9-to-5 jobs. We all have stuff that we got to do on the side. And so putting that extra effort in. So yeah, there's our quick plug for Sportsman's Empire. I feel like we're putting it there on the top. But Jeremy, hailing from Pennsylvania, tell me a little bit about PA. A lot of guys I know out there, big archery, huge Orange Army that's out there, just like Michigan. What is really what's going on out in Pennsylvania right now? And I know you just got done with the Mountain Archery trip. I think you guys were on that earlier. How did that whole event go up?
Yep. Good, man. The event in itself was really neat. I mean, anytime that you have the ability to shoot some sort of terrain that could mimic some sort of style of hunting, whether you're going out west and you're going to be putting yourself through different types of shots. We all dream of that perfect broadside shot, but in reality, we know usually they're far few in between to come by. And what was really neat about this compared to, say, like a TAC event, like TAC does a phenomenal job. I mean, obviously they're top tier, especially here at the one in Pennsylvania. But I've done that one for quite a few years, and it's a beautiful walking course. I wouldn't say you're gassed by any means. Even like my favorite course at Total Archery Challenge was always the Knock On course, just because it was at a new location of the venue. But again, it was a nice scenery, but you weren't huffing and puffing. What was really fortunate to have the Mountain Archery Fest at the northeastern side of Pennsylvania at Montage Mountain. What this one did was the lightning course, which was like the expert quote unquote course. It just meant your shots are going to be from 50 yards all the way out to, there was one shot going down the ski slope at 140 yards, which was kind of fun, but the majority of them weren't all just they weren't all bombs, which was cool. But what was neat about it is, being that it was on the one whole side of the ski lodge area, you were up and down a lot. You were side hilling a lot. There was, your feet weren't really always even. So it was a really good testament to, what is your bow going to do? What is your bow going to do under like a certain type of shot pressure, leaning into the hill? So that was really neat. But there were a couple times, Nick, where like our group, when we got there, we're like, okay, who's the first one up? Because the way we did it was, the closest to that center ring, you shot first on that next ring. And unfortunately for me, I was shooting a lot at first, because I took the day of winning those our shoot, but against each other. But man, there was a couple of times where I really had to slow my heart rate down, just because it was a trek to the next target, and it was an uphill or downhill, and making sure I don't slip and fall. I was carrying camera gear just to get some film and some content for us and whatnot. So it was a challenge, but man, it's really awesome that I can't express how beneficial those type of events can really be to any type of hunter. I mean, obviously they're fun, but if you really go into it and know that you're going to maybe be challenged in a different way, you could really try to put yourself in a tough situation because, those get really busy. So you only do get one shot pretty much at every target. It's not like you get a mulligan or a do-over. So, if it is a 49 yard, quartering away, you have a little bit of brush on a say a mini elk, 1/3 target scale or something like that. It's gonna mimic a pretty decent shot that you might face if you're going out west. So yeah, I can't speak more highly on those. And fortunate enough for the state of Pennsylvania too. I mean, you have the Montage Mountain Archery Fest, the one that I was talking about, the MAF one that I know. I forget the gentleman's name. He does a bunch all over South and out West, and he's come to PA now 2 years. And then you obviously have TAC. So, and then there's all the other local things. So if you're a bow hunter or you just like shooting your bow, there are ample of opportunities for you to get ready for the season. And there's really no excuse to say I'm pulling my bow out just a week prior to get ready for it.
Absolutely, absolutely. The foam is, I think it's changed everything as far as like the 3D targets. They're cheap. You can, like, again, these events, they're not, they do take a little bit of expenditure. I think the most expensive thing out of that is the time itself. Like you said, we do the TAC event here in Michigan, and it is getting 7 guys to get the schedules all set up, get everybody registered. That's always a headache, but being able to do that with our group of guys has been super helpful. And I think just the, like, as you were saying too, like the hunting setup, our very first year of going to that, I think the furthest pin somebody had was like a 50-yard pin. And we show up to the practice range, or at least that's what we called it at that point. Oh yeah, let's go to the practice range. Hey, where's the close targets? Like everything was way out of our bubbles. We were a little shock and awe there at the very first time we went out, but where we have come as archers from that point, doing 6-7 years, we've really stretched out. We realize the bubble level on your sight really does mean something, and you got to pay attention to those details. I run a saddle now, and so being up in there, I got to make sure I'm like, oh, check your bubble, because you could be at whatever axis. Like, or the other thing is I'm always catching my bottom limb. My bottom limb is either going to be smacking the tree, smacking my leg, or whatever it is. So it's always like, well, get yourself set up in a right spot so you're not just putting things in a bad situation. But yeah, to your testament, getting out and doing the foam is a big deal. Did you go out with your hunting specific setup? Like, were you running like, this is what I'm taking to the woods? Or do you also dabble in like the 3D, you have a specific arrow just to shoot into foam?
Yeah, so I definitely had a specific setup for that. The bow itself is my hunting bow, but it was, get a lighter arrow just because for myself, Nick, I don't have the luxury of having a nice 30-inch draw that I could really just poke something out there really easy. So running a 27.5-inch draw length, a lighter arrow for me is going to help me, stretch it out and use that maybe bottom pin, or if I have to raise it up just a hair to, over a target's back to reach it. So that allowed me to, enjoy and in all reality, like not lose as many arrows, which is great. But, the good news about all that type of stuff though now, Nick, is I'm itching right now for whitetail season. Just obviously having the podcast myself, and I'm starting to gear it more towards the whitetail woods and everything along those lines. We're going to discuss a little bit of things out west, but now is when I really like to really hammer home, like, what is my arrow setup going to be, right? Where and the good news is I had a really great year last year, and there's not a lot that I'm going to change, which is good. So I kind of just got to verify things and just get everything all clean and nice and neat and ready to go, and just honestly just practice with that. And like you were saying about getting up in the tree, and the good news is about running a saddle, you don't have to get up your 15 plus feet up in the tree just to practice in the summer, right? You can get one stick high or a sticker, and put your platform up a little bit higher for you to maybe get up you're wearing probably shorts while you're shooting, doing this type of thing anyway. So you're going to be able to reach that platform. So, you're able to bring a quiver full or maybe some extra arrows up with you, throw some targets up, around you 360 degrees, even if it's a bag target, whatever it be, and move and see how it works. But right now, Nick, is when I really do focus on getting my hunting setup dialed. I mean, I dabbled into some archery shoots this summer as well, where I competed in some local ASA events and some other type of events for some money. But right now, those are pretty much all wrapped up for me, and now it's like I'm tunnel vision. Let's get hunting arrows cut. Let's get it set up. Let's make sure we're dialed, and just continue to shoot that, because honestly, I I love archery. There's, even if I'm down in my basement, if it means I rip 3 shots at night, that's might be all I get. But other times we go to my in-laws and I'm able to stretch it out a little bit, or I can shoot in the backyard just at 20 yards. But I'm very fortunate that there are times where I might just sneak an arrow or two in. So now's when I do like to get it dialed and get ready to rock.
Good deal. Good deal. Your makeup for, well, first off, let's go with the bow. You said you're using your hunting bow already.
Mm-hmm.
What are you shooting? Is it super high end, or is it one of those tried and true that you've held on to for a couple of years?
So I am using, it is a higher end bow, so I am using an Elite bow. This was actually, Elite came out with their Elite Carbon era last year, and there was just something about, like, a carbon bow never really appealed to me so much. In years past, obviously, your main player was Hoyt. Bowtech has one as well, and I like the idea in the whitetail woods of thinking it's, your hand's not going to get as cold, but at the same time, I just like that lightness because of the type of where I hunt. And it's not just a farm where I'm just walking X amount of yards in a straight line. Like, I'm hunting some tough terrain, but I really like the look of that Elite Air last year. And Nate Sellers, Average Jack Archery, is a local shop here, and he just got Elite in, and I messaged him one day. I was at school and I just said, "Do you have that?" And he goes, "Yep." And so I sold a couple items to, I just didn't credit card it. There were some items I loaded off and was able to afford it and pay for it. And I fell in love with it. Like, that was the grip and the draw cycle, just everything. The ATA was in my wheelhouse for a whitetail setup, basically, or a hunting setup. And so I shot it all last summer, and I went into last hunting season with it, and I killed 5 deer here in the state of PA in the first like 2.5 weeks of the season. And I was just like, okay, maybe it's luck, maybe it's whatever, all that type of stuff. So going into this year, I'll be using my Elite Era again. What will be nice though, Nick, is this will be the first time in a couple years where I'm using the same bow going into the hunting season. And to be quite honest, man, unless Elite comes out with another new carbon bow or something along those lines the next couple of years, I finally feel like this is my ultimate hunting bow for me. I'll dabble in buying other bows from Elite or whatever, like for 3D season, just to have it and shoot and tinker and all that type of stuff. But like, as far as a whitetail bow goes, there's nothing that I don't like about it, if that makes sense.
Excellent, excellent. Yes, you found your home. Like, that is fun. I'm shooting a prime, and the same thing. Like, I waited a couple of years. Actually, it was like a flagship. Like, it was in 2020, but I bought it in 21. So they were offloading them for cheap, and I was like, well, shoot, I'll just get a bare bow and put all my other stuff that was on it. And yeah, like, pulling that back, I'm like, shoot, I'm home. I don't need another bow for several years right now. I'm just going to stick with this until all of a sudden technology takes it to another level. Like, I'm good right here. I'm running the same arrows as I've run now for, when did I run those? I think 2019. I drank the heavy arrow juice. I drank the FOC juice with the Ranch Fairy with Troy Fowler. Had him on the show real early on, and I was really interested in that. I had a bad experience with an arrow that literally I went to the store and was like, I need an arrow, I need a cut, and I need an insert and a broadhead. And they pushed it on the table. I just put the pieces together, and it flew, but it was definitely something that I was like, I didn't put any thought into spine, weight. I didn't put any thought into what I was throwing forward, and I paid for that. I broke a couple arrows, I lost a couple deer, and I was like, this doesn't feel right. And then of course that opens up Pandora's box onto building a bigger arrow. Where do you find yourself leaning? Are you really intrigued on getting that punch through, that plan B arrow? Or is it because you've done all
Mhm.
this work with the bow, was you've done all this practice, that shot placement, you're going to go something faster and pinpoint? Or are you planning for that plan B? Where are you going?
So honestly, I think it's a kind of a cop out answer, but I would say I'm somewhere in the middle. And the reason why I say that was, in years past, I used to run an Easton Access with a 50 grain insert, brass insert, and basically my arrow weight would be roughly around like 510, 515. And then if I would mess around with say an Easton FMJ, it was a heavier than that. It was like 515, 520. And I mean, obviously, hunting whitetail, my furthest shot that I honestly would probably take on a whitetail would be 32 yards. And I know that's a weird number, but that just seems to be, that number. And for me, with it, Nick, is now I do like to be somewhere a little bit lighter than that. And the Air is a great bow. The only thing, I run it on the smooth modification. So the bow is not a fast bow. It has a nice big forgiving brace height for that bow. And last year at shooting a 465, 470 grain arrow, I think it was coming in at 262 again at 27 and a half inch draw. So I mean, not screaming fast, not super slow, but like that seemed to be, if I was shooting a 500 grain arrow, I mean, that was going to be a little bit slower than I would like it to be, obviously at my draw length. So right now I am liking that 460 to 470. It's fast enough, it's heavy enough. So like you were just talking about pass throughs and everything like that. I do use a mechanical. I've had more success and less troublesome with a mechanical than I ever had with a fixed. I think fixed are great. I have nothing against them. I think, it's placement, all that type of stuff. I totally get that. But last year I was 5 for 5 with pass throughs. I really like the Grim Reaper mini mags. It's a small 4 expandable blade. I also do like the severs. I've had great success with severs. So last year was a very, again, just a year where 5 shots, 5 pass throughs, either saw the deer go down or heard the deer go down and recovered that animal within like 55 yards max. So it was a really good placement year too. I mean, a couple of my shots, when I would send them to my buddies, they're like, dude, number one, awesome, congrats. But then two, like perfect shot placement. You know what I mean? Like it was, I mean, I was just on a roll, which was awesome. And I worked hard though for that, Nick, because I've had, dude, like last year, I mean, to kind of, like you were saying, open a Pandora's box and stuff like that, man. Prior to last year, I was buckless in PA and since 2019. So if you count that 2019 season, dude, and then go back a couple more years prior to that, I should have been, up until last year, I think I should have been like 7 years straight filling an archery buck tag. But I've either, other than one year, I'm sorry, 1 year where I did not draw my bow back on a buck. But like maybe 6 years in, so let's say 6 out of the 7 years, I technically should have had, I had an opportunity that I just fumbled the ball. And that kind of really, 2 years prior to that 19 season, I took a lot of time to practice my shot, practice my angles, do what we were just talking about, and then had a great year in 2019. 2020 came, I got all mentally not there. I missed a buck, and really frustrating. 21 came, missed another buck, and 22 was the year I did not see a pullback on a buck, and then 23 last year is when I was successful. So, but going into last year, man, I really was like, dude, focus, slow down, really be in the moment. And I did, and I executed. And that's the reason why too. Also, I wanted to expand on that and do the local ASA stuff and put myself out there to shoot in front of other people for, a score that actually meant something. Just because really nothing else is going to mimic that stress of the mind, in the mind and physically, than doing something like that compared to when another whitetail steps out in front. So yeah, I'm a big believer. If anybody that's, either newer to hunting or anything like that, if you have the opportunity to shoot does, shoot as many as you can, man. And that, I can't stress that enough. And that's where, last year I felt like, I mean, I was going on a spree, I guess you could call it. And it was just like the first, any deer that was in close range, those first couple hunts, I was letting it rip, and just to build that confidence. And it helped, now different goals leading into this year, different mindset, and kind of fulfilled what I was hoping to do. And it's build upon that and have new things. But that's where I'm at with it.
I think we get told about this story of the big buck killer, the deer slayer, who year in year out can just put the animal in front of them and put them down. And I feel like that climax is rounding over. So when I hear, Jeremy, you talk about not only like your arrow or the bow that you have, but the arrow that you've put together, and the confidence you've built because you went through this period of mental disruption. You're just, I can't focus on getting this thing in the right spot. Putting that extra work in, building the confidence of the equipment, and then honing yourself. I think that's the better story. I think that is the true story when it comes to hunters. We're not, I'm a meat hunter. I'm going to say that all the way out through. Like, when I get a doe in front of me, I'm thinking, I go through my checklist of why not to pull this or pull back on my bow. Not like, oh, I'm waiting for waiting for the bigger one. I'm like, shoot, if I can be done and out of here, like I'm all for it. So to hear where you were taking 5 deer and just awesome placement, like that's the gold trophy right there. Because yeah, like you said, your goals
Yep.
now adapt. You feel like you've gotten over that hump, and that, I think, is the true story of that, Jeremy. That's awesome. And I think every hunter's going to go through that too. They listen to podcasts, they listen to these guys that have been successful, and they pull on that knowledge. But at the same time, like these killers have gone through droughts as well. Like, it's not, it's all up to the deer too. Deer are going to do what deer are going to do. You may strategize, you might plan it out, and they go the opposite way. They turn on you as soon as you release that arrow. As soon as you let go, the Lord is in command. You got nothing that you can do for that. So I like to hear what that you're saying, though, that even the stout guys, even the short guys, can go ahead and have a successful year, because I'm the same way. I think I'm at 27 draw, and that's why I wanted the haymaker arrow. I'm like, I get one shot. It's not coming fast, but if it hits, I want it to just knock the sucker down. Give me a chance to put another one in the string and pull it back. So getting these 5 deer last year, and now we're going to kind of switch in a little bit to after this shot, Jeremy. What comes next? Obviously, you're going to get in there, field dress the deer. You got to get it out of the woods. Is it a trip to the processor, or is it a trip to your garage where then you're going to take care of that animal? Where are you leaning on?
So that's a really great question, Nick, and I hope this could maybe help some people. So last year was a very unique year, obviously hunting, but also unique year in my life. So I just turned 37 here at the end of June. My wife and I, we have a 10-year-old daughter. She'll be going into 5th grade next year. But my wife and I, we were always under the impression we were kind of, one was all that we could have, right? And last year it happened where we had a, hey, surprise. And so my wife got pregnant and our other daughter was born New Year's Eve this past year. So I was able to hunt and do all that type of stuff. And the good news was, with the 5 deer, it was a blend. It was 2 deer I did take care of myself, and I love to do that. In years past, honestly, Nick, every deer that I would get, I would process it myself, do everything. Maybe here and there I would take it to somebody or a buddy to to do a special smoke type of snack or something along those lines for me that I just either am not comfortable doing or just not that good at it, basically. But so last year I did take 3 to the processor. One is a local, another one is a former student of mine. His family, his dad, he has his own little company that he does his own processing with.
Oh, fun.
And the reason why
That's
I
cool.
did that was, yeah. So like the main reason why I did the split was one, it was the second day of the season, then that first Saturday. So it was like I was going to be doing, I mean, you talk about in 2.5 weeks trying to do 5 deer. I don't have that capacity to do that. So that's where that kind of also played a role. And then time, just because obviously I was maybe going on a different trip, going to Ohio, maybe going back home in northeastern Pennsylvania, here, outside of where I live here now is central PA. So just different life things just force my hand a little bit to go ahead and offload a little bit. But the 2 I was able to take care of, man, Nick, there's nothing more enjoyable than bringing my daughter outside after I skin and hang and age the deer a little bit and start working on it. Nothing beats when she comes out there and is interested in asking me questions with it, and I get some solitude as well. And that's what I did last year. Was 3 went to the processor, 2 stayed home with me, and I had a good time doing all that.
Good deal. I got my 3 boys. I have a picture that I took, and each one of them, they have gloves on. Each one of them's got a knife, and each one of them has a section of neck, and they're working on deboning it, and they're working on taking out sinews. I just love that photo. I just love it. I think I have it digitally. I need to put it up on the wall, but like you said, when you get your daughter out there, and pretty soon she's going to be, I want to be a part of this. I want to do what dad's doing. Mm-hmm. Whether she sticks with it fully or not, she's going to have that experience. And so hats off to you for doing both. There's a trick. There's a talent to both of them. Mentioning like right there where you have a student that really stepped up. I'm a teacher as well. And so when I get students who take off on their passion and they have this outvent where he's trying to, cut up deer, like, I'd be feeding that kid left and right. I'd be sending so many does to him to have done up. That's super cool. But when you're working with a processor, what's some of the things that you think about, or that you have to get ready for that processor, that you're saying, hey, when I'm taking it in, I want to make sure that I've already got it cleaned out. I've already got it got chilled out at the beginning. What are some of those steps that you're taking even before it gets dropped off at that processor store?
Yeah. So, I mean, my number one thing is really, I have buddies, and obviously I can too, where it took me a little while to really be like fine-tuned finesse with field dressing a whitetail. And you could watch videos, I watch my old man do it 100 times and all that type of stuff of just, they could go through it so quickly because they've done it so many times. And like, I remember the one time I took an animal from a couple of years ago. I took a doe. It was a late season doe to the processor. It was a different one than one of the 2 I used. I remember dropping it off, and there was another person dropping one off, and I must have been a bad shot or a tough shot. And I remember that the butcher or the processing guy basically just being like, man, I wish this. And he looked over at me and he just said, always, if you have a gut shot or something like that, he's just like, just do your best to clean it out the best that you can or something like that. He goes, because this is just going to be more work for me and all that type of stuff. So long story short, what I like to do is just take my time. I mean, I'm not in a crazy hurry to get things taken care of. I just want to make sure that it's, I'm not getting anything that could be spoiling the meat by any means on it. And, here in Pennsylvania too, that first week, that Monday that I killed a doe, and that first Saturday that I killed another doe, it was hot. So like, it was, you had to be I had to be a little bit quicker and along those lines. But I mean, honestly, Nick, my thing is just to be as careful as possible, that I don't really, nick something that could potentially spoil the meat. But in all reality, I just try to do is the best work that I can, so that way I get most of everything that I can back from the animal.
I've seen very tough men get real girly when it comes to getting that anus out of an animal. And it takes putting the thumb in and pulling pressure. Like you got to stick it in, check its oil so that you can cut around. And just the squeamish
Yep.
thing. Like, I thought you said you were a tough guy. I thought you said, "Oh yeah, I can carry this up a mountain." Yeah, but you can't. You can't get that anus fully out, and that's then going to be a problem for your processor. So taking time is what
Yeah.
you're saying. Is if you're taking it to a processor, you're already going to be handing it off to him. Give him the most quality that he can. Cleanliness. Make sure you
Yep.
thoroughly get that out. That's a great message for guys. So if we can go back to those other deer, now we've got the ones that are at your garage. You got them hung up. You getting a
Hmm.
way to chill them out. I know last year was real nice, just because in the way of timing worked out. We had this cold spell right there at the tail end where I did get I got a doe late. I got my big buck. I'm a big buck killer this year. Got my Michigan 8-point, and I was able to hang him up and let him do the full age hanging there. Was very excited about that. When you take that animal to the table and you're cutting pieces out, shoot, with the kids now, you're probably going to be looking at ground being a big part of your life. But are you keeping
Hmm.
other sections of that deer? Are you keeping different roasts? Are you keeping different whole cuts that your family, that you and your wife have really enjoy? What would be those cuts that you guys are singling out to keep whole?
Yeah, so honestly, some of like our favorite things to do is what you were even mentioned earlier about with the neck. I love doing a neck and doing a kind of like the shoulder, like the front shoulder roast, like making a chuck roast with it.
Mm-hmm.
Where we are big fans of that Mississippi. Oh man, what's it called? Mississippi roast recipe. That is probably by far one of my favorite things to do, man. Because once you put that in that slow cooker, and you could just break. I mean, it just, oh man, my mouth's getting watery just thinking about it right now. But those are number one, are like for sure. As far as like the bigger family, cuts that we do, are for those bigger recipes like that. We do a lot of like kind of like a mash, or kind of like a thicker stew. We do some of those. But like you said, though, this past year was a lot of ground. My wife and the three of us, we do try to do at least taco night once a week. So we do that. And I've experimented this past year too with some other cuts of meat where we're shredding it, and not necessarily always using ground for that. Uh, but we like, my daughter's a big spaghetti and meatball fan, so we do. I've made more meatballs the last year, using the ground meat as well. And honestly, I'm pretty basic. Then after that, I give me my loins, give me my back straps, like that normal stuff. I have a smoker, so we're the good news is, Nick, my daughter, the 10-year-old, she is a meat freak. Like, she is a red meat individual, which is, I mean, it plays perfect for me. I'm very lucky, and she likes it, medium rare. So I mean, I guess once you build them up to it, or you grow them up on that, that's what they tend to like, right? That's why I like what I like, because of my father and all that type of stuff. So I'm very lucky, and my wife has started to grow towards that as well. So as long as we have our steaks and we have all those bigger cuts and the ground meat, I'm a big jerky guy. With being, obviously, like you said, being a teacher, I snack a lot. Being a health and phys ed teacher, and obviously I want something a little bit more healthier. And I have my own recipe I could do on the smoker. I like some of my buddies that make their own, so I'll send them some big chunks of meat where I ask, some of them will say, "Hey, I'll cut it up," or they want me to cut it into strips or whatever, however. And I like the muscle jerky the best. So, but yeah, that's I mean, really not too crazy. We just like having some round steaks just to be able to put in the slow cooker or throw on the smoker later, and test around and do some different type of recipes.
Back to that jerky. Lay out for me. Is it just a dry seasoning that you're going on, and then you go to the smoker? Are you brining overnight and then taking it to the smoker? Is a dehydrator involved at all? Take me through your jerky setup.
So my jerky setup, I am brining, and that is my number. I just like to let it soak for about, I would say just shy of 2 days is probably where I'm at. And from there, dude, it's right to the smoker. My dad, I've always watched him do it, and he would always use a dehydrator and all that type of stuff. And for my living space and the time that I have, what's nice is I could throw that smoker on a nice low heat, put it on a super smoke type of setting, and I just set it and forget it, and come back a couple hours later, and I got a nice tender piece of jerky. And man, nothing beats it. And in all reality, it is. I don't really have a number one recipe. I'm pretty bad when it comes to that. I feel like I'm like my mother-in-law, because my wife will ask her, well, how do you make that? Or some piece, and my mother-in-law will always be like, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And, and my former background of being a hotel restaurant institutional management, I like cooking and I like doing certain things. And, I don't know, that looks like that would taste good. So I would just toss it in there. Whatever amount is what I would put into it. So
Yeah, exactly.
in all reality, man, I don't really have I don't have like it's honestly whatever I have laying around, and I'll just toss things in. And there are certain spices that I do like some over other. And the one piece that I've been throwing in the last like 2 years has been like coffee grounds. I love doing some sort of char with some coffee grounds onto it, and adding that little bit of flavor to it as well. So, but yeah, I mean, it is brining for, like I said, maybe a day and a half, just shy of 2 days. Throw it right on the smoker immediately, and then let it cook for about, I want to say, I think I usually do 4.5 hours. I could be totally wrong, but I believe that number for some reason is jumping out to me.
Gotcha. So these are thicker too. We're looking at probably a 1/4 to 1/2 inch. You're not going thin on these, because going with the smoker,
No.
you were just saying that these were tender. So you're definitely going thicker on your cuts. With grain or against grain?
I'm mainly going, I think I'm going with the grain.
Gotcha. It doesn't look like a cross-section piece of steak. Yeah. That would be a cross grain, but you're going with it.
No.
Getting longer strips.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yes, correct.
I love to gnaw on jerky. So I am with the dehydrator, like with I'm doing the heavy brine. I actually add quite a bit of spice to mine, because of the dehydration does zap a lot of that. Now, as you chew on it more, then that spice comes up. But I like mine like super thin, and I like it tough. I like to rip on it and then just gnaw on it, like as if I were to be, an outfielder. I'm out there for a long time. I might as well chew on something. That's where I like my jerky. But I've been more guys that I talk to that have a tender taste towards their jerky. I'm like, maybe I need to dabble in that. Maybe I need to make some thicker ones, cross grain, see what we can play with.
I like it. Yeah. And, for me, I used to be like, I liked it tough. And like you said, just really had to like bite down and all that type of stuff. And there are certain times where my one buddy who I do send it to, he does, I don't know how he does it, but he does a phenomenal job with that, where it's tough, but it's still tender. Like he just has the perfect, I don't know how he does it, but he just crushes his recipe with it. And I to this day, that is what I like to usually bring to work and snack on. Whereas like if I'm in the whitetail woods and want something, that's where I will probably want a little bit more tender of something that I make, but it still has a nice little chew to it. It's not, super, super tender.
Gotcha. Well, Jeremy, here's my crescendo question. As I've been going through, I go to each of the Sportsman's Empire hosts and dive into a little bit about them and a little bit about what they're doing and how they handle their game, whether it be venison, whether it be wild pork, whether it be whatever anybody's chasing. So now that's come to your turn now, and I've made up this this pseudo event, and it is the Emperor's Table. It is going to be a potluck where Sportsman's Empire hosts are invited to. We're bringing this spread, and you have to have a dish to share with a bunch of hunters. Now, we're all a bunch of dudes, and I'm sure we'll be able to stomach whatever you come up with. But at the same time, if you were invited, if you were coming to this event, what would be a dish to pass that you would make out of your venison?
I would go to my tried and true. I would definitely do that Mississippi chuck roast. But here's the kicker, though. I would actually have uh, the little banana peppers or the sweet peppers that go into it. But I would also have like a little mini bun to come around. So instead of just
Ooh,
having it on like say mashed potatoes or with noodles, I've been enjoying it with a little like a bun and making it a sandwich, like a little mini sandwich out of it. So
yes, yes,
I would
yes.
probably I would say that's where I would bring. I would be able to like create your own little sandwich with it. Just with the juices and the flavoring and the peppers and slap that on a bun, man. It not I it's perfect.
Absolutely, absolutely. Straight out of the crock pot. You got it all mixed up there, shredded out. I'd enjoy it. I'm totally going by. I'll probably take 2 buns worth. I'll take 2 sandwiches. Well, Jeremy, this has been an awesome 45 minutes. I even really enjoyed talking with you and getting a chance to know you. Super glad that you're a part of Sportsman's Empire. So we know that you're there. Where else can we follow along with Antler Up? Where else can we find you that we can tune in?
Absolutely, Nick. No, man, it's a pleasure. I appreciate you having me on. I've always respected you and love what you do. So I appreciate the invite and appreciate that. But you could check out antlerupoutdoors.com. That will kind of lead you to the website, and I need to do a little overhaul on that just to update some things. But you could obviously check out on YouTube, Instagram. The Instagrams also leak to the Facebook, so you're basically getting both of the same stuff over there. But yeah, man, I appreciate it. And if you have any other questions or people, just feel free to reach out, man. I just, like you said, man, I'm a teacher, work that 9 to 5 kids and family. And I just love whitetail hunting. I love talking to other like-minded individuals about it as well. So, man, I appreciate the invite, and I can't wait to have you on our show and discuss some things.
Excellent, excellent. Well, hold on just a second, Jeremy, and I'm going to send our listeners on out. Folks, I hope you enjoyed this hour. Getting a chance to just, again, talk with someone who's passionate about whitetail hunting and just hunting. I wouldn't say just whitetail, but hunting in general. Someone who went through the ringer, has gone through the same footsteps that maybe all of us have of you don't feel confident and you know that, hey, I gotta find my way through this, whether it's an equipment switch, whether it's a mind over matter. But going through and then finding success on the other side and continuing to push on that, adapt their goals after you've made those steps. So finding that hero story in whatever we're doing is such a good thing. And then to follow that up with bringing amazing things to the table. So whether it's you field dressing for a processor and making sure you get every little bit of that anus out of there, or it's you back in your shop ready to cut up that deer with your kids, make sure that the knife that you are using is very sharp and beautiful.
I like it.
Here comes a